Allah is the one, the one, the one, the one.
Rabbi israh li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We thank Allah again. Tonight we have a chance to learn about the another great Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we ask Allah to send the salam and salutations to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to his family and the companions and all the followers of his ummah until the end of time. So as I mentioned, today we go back to our series of the 10 people with the glad tidings, and I think we have covered 1, 2, 3, 4 the Khulafa Rashidin, and then we cover about Abdur Rahman bin Auf, we cover Talhah, we cover Zubayr bin Awam Radhi'Allah Annhum, and then today inshallah we cover number 8, which is Saad bin Abi Waqqas, the Ashara Mubashara, the 10 people of promised Jannah, or the 10 people with the glad tidings. Bismillah, let's start tonight. So as usual, I'm just gonna quote one particular hadith that show you the virtue of this companion. This hadith was quoted in the Sahih Bukhari and one of the books of the book of the military expedition, and it happened during the time of the Battle of Uhud, when there was one of the most difficult times of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where these people like running away because of the double back of at the time it was Khalid bin Walid was not a companion yet, was not Sahaba yet, so he attacked the Muslims at the Battle of Uhud, and so many people actually left except a small group of people, and one of them was our man for tonight, which is Saad bin Abi Waqqas, and he was there next to Rasulullah. Saad bin Abi Waqqas was known for his eyesight, right? So, and Rasulullah handing him arrow, and Saad bin Abi Waqqas said, every enemy that came, then he just went one by one, and Rasulullah says, irmi fidaka abi wa ummi, and this is one of the highest blessing from Rasulullah when he said, I sacrificed my father and mother for you. It is a phrase that common at the time of Rasulullah. It is quite common when all the companions actually saying it to Rasulullah, like expressions of love, expressions of adore, expressions of someone that you look up for, like really like a huge respect. And Rasulullah did that to this Sahaba tonight, which is Saad bin Abi Waqqas. So this is one of the great blessing of the man tonight. It is the Saad bin Abi Waqqas. So we're gonna talk about 4 things tonight, inshallah. First of all, I think if you already follow the story about Ashara Mubashara, so I'm just gonna give you the concept of what is Ashara Mubashara in general, the 10 people of the glad tidings, and then just give you an idea of why Rasulullah gave them the glad tidings and so on. So they give us an opportunity to learn again. This every single series that we do for the Ashara Mubashara, the 10 people of the glad tidings, we keep saying this or remembers for us. And then not many stories again, but some of the stories we started from his family, his lineage, how his relationship with Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we pick up some of the life events of these companions, and then last but not least the legacy, what we can learn, actually benefit from the story of another giant of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Saad bin Abi Waqqas. Let's start with okay, I need the cursor back. Okay, let's start with what is the concept of Ashara Mubashara. Ashara Mubashara is actually the word, the complete word is Ashara Mubashara bil Jannah, meaning that the 10 people who receive the good news, the glad tidings, that they will be in paradise, right? The collected in many hadith. Some of them is in Tirmidhi as well as Sunan ibn Majah. And again, the tabshir or the glad tiding is some things that Rasulullah say to the companions. It's like the good news for you is encourage people. Also a statement level of achievement, if you will. So again, if you remember the stories of, for example, I want to see the brother but behind the camera. So, all right, is it hot in here or is just me? Or because the aircon is not on? I don't know whether you can see, but I'm sweating from the camera. All right. Can you see it from camera? Can you edit the? Okay. Bismillah. All right. Let's move on. I don't know whether you heard the story of Bilal, for example, Rasulullah. Bilal, I heard your footstep in Jannah. Yeah? And again, this is another kind of like a glad tidings and good news, as if Bilal has been mentioned by Rasulullah SAW that you'll be in Jannah. So, what is the hadith looks like?
It happened during his time in Lineage, right?
Yes, when he comes back. Yeah, so during Makkah time. So the hadith goes like this: is Abu Bakr fil Jannah, Umar fil Jannah, and then the Talhah bin Jannah, Zubayr in paradise, Rahman bin Auf, and then Saad bin Abi Waqqas in paradise, and Sa'id bin Jannah, and Abu Ubaydah bin al-Jarrah in Jannah. So it's quite unique. It's 10 people combined in one hadith, right? So this is narrated, and is narrated by even Abu Rahman bin Auf Radhi'Allah Annhu also narrated this. And we need to memorize this because this is like creme de la creme, the top of the if you say the celebrity of Jannah, right? All these people are celebrity of Jannah. If you want to categorize that, the first category probably like the closest companions of Rasulullah SAW, which is Umar bin Khattab, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq Radhi'Allahu Anhu. And then if you want a second category to that is the Khulafaur Rasidin, which is the 4, and then the third category is these people there. If you notice this, all 10 of them, they're the first batch of Muslims, like the first people who become Muslims during the Sabiqun, right? The earlier. They went through all the difficulties. They went through all the challenges and the sacrifice and everything. Not only their sacrifice, they sacrifice their money, their feelings, their bloods, and everything. If you memorize this, it's very easy actually. If you look at the four caliphs, and then Talhah, Zubair, Abdurrahman bin Saad, and Saad bin Abu Ubaidah. And then once we get to the last, which is the last two, which is Said bin Zaid, as well as Ubaydah bin Jarrah. This is probably we're gonna combine that into one night because there are not many stories about them. Again, this hadith narrated by Abdurrahman bin Auf. There was actually narrated by Said bin Zaid himself. If you don't know Said bin Zaid is actually the wife of Fatimah binti Khattab, which is like the brother-in-law of Umar bin Khattab. I don't know whether you remember when Umar bin Khattab first embraced Islam, when he heard the knocking on his door and it's his wife, his sister Fatima, with her husband. This is Said bin Zaid. So he mentions about this, and then almost no ikhtilaf in all the ulamas about all these 10 people. They're not in particular order, but it's almost no ikhtilaf. There's no particular tartib for that. Except for, of course, the caliphs, because their 4 is in order, in sequential order. But the rest, there are not many differences between the ulama about all these 10. Now, if you look at this, for example, all these 10, they are all Quraysh. But Nauzubillah has nothing to do about being tribalism, but because they are the first one who sacrificed and who went to prosecutions for Rasulullah SAW. So they are the creme de la creme, I like to say that. All right, other than the glad tidings, the tafsir of people getting to Jannah, is there any other glad tidings? Apparently, yes. As I mentioned, I shared with you, which is Bilal, for example. This is another one. But there's also Wabashir Sabirin. Give the glad tidings to people who are patient. So that means the glad tidings is also sent to people based on the action. For example, Basaril Masa'ina fi zulami ila masajid. Give good news to people who go to masjid during the darkness, which is the Salatul Isha and the Salat the Fajr. right? So there's people who went to masjid because it's very dark, and they have a special good news to them. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. And then people who patience, give them good news. Individual as well, the people like Khadijah radiallahu, I think Khadijah radiallahu anha was the first person who that Allah sent Jibril alayhi salam to go down and then tell Rasulullah sallallahu, this is your wife gonna come. Tell her that her house is ready in Jannah. So, and again, it's another way of a glad tiding. And Hafsa radiallahu, I just spoke to Brother Adil just now. When Rasulullah sallallahu was about to divorce Hafsa, and then Jibril came down and says, remarry your wife because she's going to be your wife in Jannah. So again, this is another glad tiding. You heard about Bilal, as mentioned to you. And there's also another story is about wait, can I get some tissue if you don't mind? It's a bit hot. Is it probably all right? Thank you. Yes, Ukasha bin Moshin. This guy, these companions of Rasulullah SAW, was hearing the stories that there will be 70,000 people will go to Jannah without reckoning, without hisab. And then Ukasha says, Ya Rasulullah, make dua that I'm one of them. Yes, you're one of them. So again, this is another Jannah, they're still where they're still alive. So what is so special? And again, Hassan and Hussein, for example, Rasulullah said they are Sayyida Sababi al-Jannah. They will be the leader of the young people in Jannah. And again, Hassan and Hussein is already promised Jannah because of that. And why these people are so special? Again, because if you look all these 10 the profiles of these 10 great Sahaba, they are the first people who embrace Islam, and they are mentioned in one group into one hadith. One of my colleagues at office always says a club in one. Is everything other than saying group is a club in one hadith. All right, so that's the glad tidings. So let's go into his stories about his families, his titles, and he comes from the Bani Zuhra, which is a sub-tribes of Quraysh. And again, during the pre-Islam, I think lineage is something really important, right? And then even now, even until then, like the son of the prime minister. So, Jazakallah khair. I think this is probably because I was walking still about 15 minutes ago. Jazakallah khair. And again, like, you, the son of the prime minister or something, people have special treatment. That's the son of the king, the family of the king, and especially people with the status, high-ranking status or celebrities, whether it's a world celebrity. Now, you can imagine, like, for example, the uncle of Rasulullah is Abdul Muttalib. He's also known for his bravery, and there's a lot of stories about Abdul Muttalib. So when on many occasions Rasulullah call him like the Ibn Abdul Muttalib, so to show his lineage as well. So lineage is not something that is for us to be shy away, but it's something that we're so proud of. But again, and this is embedded to our DNA, that we're proud of if we have ancestors or someone that is actually famous and have special status in society. People would like to link to them, and that is nothing different with the times of 1400 years ago. Again, Rasulullah SAW and Saad bin Abi Waqqas, or his father is actually Malik, so Saad bin Malik, also known as Saad bin Malik. They met about 5 to 6 generations of Rasulullah SAW, and then he's not a very big tribe. He's Bani Zuhra. He's not as big, and I think there are two, which is Abdurrahman bin Auf is also coming from the same tribe. That is from the father's side. How about from the mother's side? From the mother's side, this is actually from the mother's side is actually closer. So it's, I don't know how you call it. Is it called second cousin? When a cousin is, you actually share the same grandparent, right? This is, you actually share the same great grandparent. I don't know whether, I tried to look at it and say, is it second cousin to call it? So, and which is Abi Waqqas and Aminah, the mother of Rasulullah, is actually cousin. So and in Arabic they call khal, so it's almost like a, some people call that Abu Saad bin Abu Waqqas his uncle. It's not necessarily uncle, they're actually at the same level, they are a second cousin, if you will. So that is it's a second cousin through the mother of Prophet Muhammad SAW, which is Aminah binti Wahab bin Abdul Manaf bin Abd Manaf and Zurah. So let's. So what's the story is about Saad bin Abi Waqqas. He was born about 23 years younger than Rasulullah SAW. And again, he was originally also known by Saad bin Saad bin Malik. It's the first son is Waqqas, and he's not known for his physical. He's known for very sharp, like stocky kind of things, and with curly hair. He's not known for that physical sort of strength, but he's known for his eyesight. So during the time of Rasulullah in the battle, he became the marksman. So he's someone who's a very, like I think in this modern days you call it sniper, probably, like have very precision. So that's what Saad bin Abi Waqqas. Not many. If you think about military campaigns and warriors and stuff like that, right? People always think who Khalid bin Walid, right? We forgot there's actually another military genius. It's actually Saad bin Waqqas, and inshallah tonight there's something that we're gonna tell the stories about Saad bin Waqqas. Every time we see the conqueror of lands, always people, because his name is Rasulullah give him a title of Saifullah, which is a sword of Allah. But again, we forgot that there is another big military genius, military commander, Saad bin Abi Waqqas. He's Mashallah, tabarakallah, he's one of the person who married, he's got wives as well as the total of 11 women altogether throughout his life. And I think he had about 11, 13 somethings and 18, 17 sons, so nearly 40 children. It's a big family. He is one of the, not only he is also mentions in the glad tidings of Jannah, as in the Ashara Mubashara, but he also mentions in multiple occasions after the Battle of Badr, for example, Rasulullah also mentioned that he's in Jannah. So he's mentioned that. And one of the unique thing about this companion of Rasulullah that he was the one that Allah called him mustajabu da'wah. That means his dua is granted. Rasulullah make dua for him, Ya Allah accept all his dua. So whenever he makes dua, especially for people who do zulm against him, and he make dua, Allah will fulfill that right away. This is Saad bin Abi Waqqas, and that's why many companions normally, the Sahaba of Rasulullah, they're really careful about Saad bin Waqqas. They don't want to harm him or to make him feel offended or something like that, and because he would actually make dua. It happens at least in some of the hadiths. It happens about I quote one. There was one time people together. There was, I think, the Khulafa of the Uthman or something, or during the Ali, people actually cursing Ali, all right, and they curse about Ali bin Abi Talib, and then he said, "Don't curse, don't you?" And then he said to him, "Don't even curse about him," right? And I know what do you want me to do, right? Okay, and then because if you curse Ali, I will curse you. And the guy continued cursing Ali, Radhi'Allah Annhu, and then he made dua, and then he made 2 rakat, he made dua, Allah, if what he tells is lie, and make him blind, or make him something, or make him suffer. There's a blind, is another dua. And you know what happened to that guy? And you know what happened to the guy? That guy actually, that night there was some rabbit camel or something, and it's going crazy and nuts and go around rampant, and so people they went to the market and get to that guy and stomp on this guy, and the guy actually died. So this is one of the so people do not try to mess with him, because as I've been overcast whenever he feels, especially Rasulullah, if you remember one of the hadiths when Rasulullah mentions about the dua of someone who being oppressed, and there's no hijab between the dua of someone versus Allah will, and this is one of the things that Saad bin Waqqas, and probably another example we get to that when we get to that, inshallah. So it's a little bit of Saad bin Waqqas, and not many stories about him. This is one of the problems that we have. Of course, there's so many hadiths, so many stories about the great companions, but more Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, the last two Sa'id bin Zaid, for example, there are not many stories. That's why we're gonna combine them into one night, inshallah. So this is about Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, radhiallahu anhu. Next, probably we will not be able to. I don't know whether we can still make it within half an hour, inshallah. Let's go to some of the life events, some of the stories of his life. And everyone knows he's one of the first Muslim. He embraced Islam at the age of 17. So he's a very, very young. He was embracing Islam at the hand of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. As you know, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the day he embraced Islam in the morning, and he went out, he met with Uthman bin Affan, Talhah, Zubayr bin Awam, Rahman bin Awam. They all become Muslims as well. So subhanallah, this is like delivered to me, even one verse, one ayah, right? Walau ayah. And then subhanallah, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, how the blessings of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, all this Ashara Mubashara, 7 of them, they embraced Islam at his hand. Subhanallah, what a blessings of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. And then you cannot tell stories of the companions without telling the stories of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radhiallahu anhu. What happened before he embraced Islam, he had a dream that he saw Abu Bakr and the other companions, and he saw a big moon, and he was asking, so what is this moon? Right, so he was seeing a dream, and that probably the moon is reflecting this, like there will be some nur coming and so on. And then he woke up, and then he realized that the following day he met up with Abu Bakr, and then he has already feeling something wrong with the practice of the idolatry during that time. So he's probably have that feeling that it's probably not the right religion and so on and so forth. So when he sees the nur, then he just jump it right away. So just like any other companions of Rasulullah SAW, like Uthman, Talha, Zubair, when they heard about Islam, when they heard about Rasulullah SAW, it just clicked to them right away, right? So that's why they're the first batch of Muslim. Of course, there are varieties of Muslim. The first one will just jump it right away, and then the last people who embrace Islam is probably even before the conquest of Makkah. And Khalid bin Walid is actually one of the last person. Is actually two, himself, Khalid bin Walid, and Amr bin As. They're the last two who embraced Islam just before the conquest of Makkah. And there's no story about him going to Hijrah to Abyssinia, just like any other companions, but not many. One of the stories is quite unique about Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas was his father has already passed away, and then he had a very, very close relationship with his mother. And then his mother was actually very, very paganistic. When she realized that Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas embraced Islam, she got very upset. And she said, no way you're going to leave the religions of our parents, right? And then if you don't go back to paganism, I will stop eating and drinking, so I will die, right? So she blackmailed her own son, and what happened after that is he just left home, and all his brothers and uncles and all relatives look at what you're doing to your mother. Your mother is really bad conditions right now, and he felt sorry in the end, right? So he came to see his mother. His mother said, you're gonna come back to paganism because I heard from your prophet that you have to respect your parents. Come on, why don't you respect me, or something like that? So it's all blackmails. At the time, Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas did not know exactly what to do. Of course, there was not revealed yet. I think if you heard the story of the companion of Ammar bin Yasser, for example, when he had to say that he believed in the idols, and he was so upset and came to Rasulullah SAW. I said, I believe in the idols because they forced me, otherwise they're gonna kill me and so on. And the ayah was revealed that you're okay for you to do that as long as what's in your heart, right? So he could have said, yeah, mom, okay, I'll leave then I'll go back to you as long as to save. But he didn't know what to do, and he even said to his mother that, oh yeah Ummah, oh mother, I have a strong love to you, but my love to Allah and His Rasul is strong. that even I have to witness you, even you have 1,000 lives, 1,000 souls, and I have to witness 1,000, all of them depart from you, I will not abandon this religion. Subhanallah, what a strong, iman, conviction. And because of this, Allah revealed Surah Luqman, which is, if you remember the وَوَصَيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ. Allah, this is when Luqman teach his children about the first things you do is do not make shirk to Allah, and the second thing you do is you have to be ihsan to your parents, right? You have to do or in jadaka, and then the second verse, if they ask you to do anything, right, you do it except doing shirk. The only thing, if they not do shirk, then you have to be nice to them. So this ayah was revealed. Now you can imagine why we have to talk a lot about these companions of Rasulullah SAW. Why? Because they are actually the backdrop of when the Quran was revealed, right? So this Quran was revealed because of this sort of experience. Now you can imagine Saad bin Abi Waqqas, like standing behind Rasulullah SAW in prayer, in namaz, in salah, and Rasulullah recite this ayah. You can imagine how they feel about it. They don't only feel this ayah, I am part of this ayah, this was revealed because of me, I was the asbab of that. You can imagine that. So that's why these companions are the first generations of Rasulullah SAW, the first generation of Islam. This is where we look up to, because they are the first person that went through the difficulties, and Allah, and the way Rasulullah mentioned that they are guaranteed Jannah is for us to actually learn from all these great giants, inshallah. What is the stories about his earlier Makkah time? He was the first person to fight, to shed blood during for the fight of Islam, and it was during that time the companions, the Muslims were embargo, right? So people would not make any business interactions and social interactions to the Quraysh. They went to a special valley which is outside of Mecca. They starved them, they don't have enough to eat, and so on. And during that time, some people, they cannot pray in public, so they have to pray separately. So when they pray separately, there was a prayer outside of Mecca, and there's a couple of group which is I think there's some of the youth of the Quraysh at that time. They went out and they made fun of him, then they embarrassed him, and probably even tried to prosecute them while they're praying. And Saad bin Abi Waqqas at that time was just using the stick, whatever's available to him, and then he actually hit the person by the name of Abdullah bin Akhtal. And this person, and this actually the guy actually I even have to bleeding, and this was the first time that someone fight in the name of Islam. Just quickly on Abdullah bin Akhtal. Abdullah bin Akhtal is one of the 6 people when Rasulullah went back to Makkah, and he said, all of this one, everyone forgiven except this 6, and one of them is Abdullah bin Akhtal, because what they did was beyond forgiven, right? So one of the things he did is he got a very long list of crimes. One of the things he did was he pretended that he embraced Islam, and then he made friends to some of the companions, and he actually killed them and robbed them and take everything, and this one of the things that he did. He also paid people at the time. Probably now people have Twitters and Facebook, and if you want to defame someone, you can probably make bad stories and so on, right? Using Facebook, whatever you can do. But at the time, people will pay someone who make poetry and to defame our Rasul. He's one of the person who's actually pay people and to do this and to mock and to do silly things and bad things about the Muslims and the Prophet Muhammad SAW. So he's one of the guy that caused this story. The story of Battle of Badr. The Battle of Badr is quite unique as well. Before the Battle of Badr, just to show that Rasulullah has already assigned him to be military commander. So before the Battle of Badr, there's a couple of small expeditions. Rasulullah assigned him to do certain things for him, and this is again to show that he's going to be one of the great leaders of the military leaders of Islam. And this before the Battle of Badr. And yeah, so one of the things that that Rasulullah asked him to do is to go around and the caravan of Quraysh, when they go from Makkah and go up north to Sham, Bilad Sham, which is Syria today, or they're going down to Yemen to do some trading. It is allowed for them to do an ambush, right? And this is what Rasulullah asked them to do, and to ambush certain people, especially the caravans from Quraysh. During the Battle of Badr himself, it's he actually one of the people who's fight very severely, and he captures prisoners of war, 2 prisoners of wars, and this is very interesting actually. I don't know whether you heard the word ghanimah before, which is what is it in English? The war of the booty, the war booty. Is the war booty. So the war booty, it was actually the sunnah of Rasulullah, the sunnah of all the prophets. The war booty is haram, right? So even the prophet Musa alayhi salam at that time, if they have the war booty, so they will put it aside, and Allah will send a sort of lightning and everything to destroy. So at that time, and Rasulullah says there are 5 things, if I'm not mistaken, the 5 things that it was not allowed by to the prophets before me, but allowed to me. One of them is that the whole earth can become a masjid for us, right? So imagine the sunnah or the sharia of the other prophets. They cannot pray. They have to go to the temple, to the masjid, whatever. Not and then for example for wudu, right? So they have to make wudu. I think wudu or ghusl, they have to make wudu on a special, like a flowing water. So they cannot just take wudu like for us, just open the tap and take wudu or ghusl or stuff like that. The sharia of the other prophets before that, they can't do that. So it's a bit difficult for them. These are some of the things that they're not allowed. And one of the things that is allowed for Rasulullah SAW is actually ghanimah. And ghanimah is allowed. But at that time it was not revealed yet, so he killed some of his enemy, and he got these swords or whatnot, and then he just but he asked Rasulullah, can I take this? And I said, no, put it back on, put it back there. It's not halal for you, it's haram. So he, of course, this is nice sword. At that time it's probably the sword, the armors and everything you can actually take after you defeat your enemies, and it can be something sort of wealth as well, right? You can buy and sell this product. Anyway, just after that, and the Quran was revealed, which is yas'alunaka anil anfal, and they ask you about anfal, which is the ghanimah, which is the booty, and then this booty is actually Qul anfalu lillahi wa rasul. This is all for Rasulullah, for Allah and His Messenger, and because of that it is allowed. And then just after the battle, Saad bin Waqqas was called. Rasulullah calls you, and then he came to Rasulullah, and then yes, you can take that booty. From now on is you can take that booty. So this is one of the blessing. And again, what this Quran was revealed, this particular ayah was revealed because he asked for this booty. And again, I think there's 4 times or 5 times the Quran was revealed where Saad bin Abi Waqqas is asbab. Alright, next, which is the Battle of Uhud. What happened to the Battle of Uhud? Again, the Battle of Uhud is one of the most difficult times, and where they thought they were winning, and then suddenly all the archers, right, they came down. They thought there's gonna be booties, and then they came down, and Khalid bin Walid at the time was still at the Kafir Quraysh, and took that opportunity and double attack, and then go around the mountain and do the attack. And everyone was a helter-skelter, so everyone is running away, and it was very difficult. And even the likes of Uthman bin Affan is actually fled the scene as well. So many people fled the scene, except a small group. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, normally very close to Rasulullah, at that time he actually couldn't find Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even at the time, people were thinking there was a rumor that Rasulullah was actually murdered as well as killed in the everyone or so. And at that time, when during that time and Rasulullah this is when we opened the stories about Saad bin Abi Waqqas, where Rasulullah is handing the arrows, and this is where Rasulullah say, Irmi, shoot, throw, Fidaka Abi wa Ummi. This is where, and again, this is one of the biggest blessing of Rasulullah for Saad bin Abi Waqqas, when he actually said it once in his life, that I sacrificed my father and mother. But again, after a few battles after that, at the Battle of Khandaq, he actually said that again to Zubayr. But at the time, it was the first time, and it was quite a blessing. Even the other companions says, when I wish I was the one that who Rasulullah said that to me. And again, this is a very very it's a good story, and it is a highest honor to the companions. All right, just go to some late time Medina before the demise of Rasulullah SAW, which was during the Hajjatul Wada. Rasulullah he went on for the Hajj, the pilgrimage, and at the time Saad was feeling sick, and he thought he was going to die or something. He has only one daughter, so he asked Rasulullah SAW, "Can I give all my wealth, everything to Sadaqah? Can I give 2/3 of it?" Right? And because of that, and the verses of inheritance, the inheritance was revealed, that you cannot give everything. The maximum wasiyah, the maximum is only 1/3. So for example, before you pass away, and it says, okay, if I pass away later on, give all my wealth to the orphans or to the security, whatever you want to give it to the orphans or to the poor peoples and everything. But in Islam, you cannot do that. Once you die, the wasiyah that you can do is only 1/3, right? And the 2/3 will go to you with a certain calculations of you, the ahlul waris. I don't know whether the people who should receive the inheritance from you, right? So, and again, this the verses of inheritance were revealed during while Saad bin Abi Waqqas is the asbab. There's probably another one or two stories. The first story is around during the last Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was the caliph for about 2 years, and he was busy with the Battle of Ridda. At the time, a lot of people around the Jazirah Arab, they rebel against Abu Bakr, and the Abu Bakr sent armies to fight them. He just probably about 2 years, and before that, Umar bin Khattab, just after almost the last year, he was assigned as a military commander to Sasanian Empire. Not many people know Sasanian Empire is at that time. I don't know whether you remember in the 80s, like the whole world, there's two big giants, one the USSR and one the USA, right? The Soviet Union and the USA. There's two big sort of giants. At the time of Rasulullah, there's two: the Eastern Roman, which is the Byzantine, and the Sasanian Empire. Sasanian Empire is nowadays the modern Iraq and Iran. It's huge, right? And the capital is Tertifon, which is now it's called Madain, which is down south from Baghdad.
On the Persians.
On the Iraq side, actually. So if the one that the border to Saudi Arabia, right, is the Arab lands, is actually Iraq and then Iran. So, and then because during the time of the Khalifa, I think it's Khalifa Ali and then Abbasid at the time, there's so many Arabs actually moved to this land, this piece of land, this Iraq. So that's why Iraq become more Arabicized, right? While the other part, which is Iran, they're still actually Iran and Iraq at the time is one piece of land, one area where they speak Farsi, they speak Persian. But then because the Iraq part of it was more sort of Arabicized, because the Abbasid, the Sultanate, the Abbasid and so on, they become more Arabs. And again, this is a great honor for for Saad bin Abi Waqqas, because he's becoming sort of the general of all the army at the time.
In the Iraq side, the Babylonians were there.
Yes, yes, yeah.
The Persians and the Babylonians.
If,
Persians are on the Iranian side.
Yeah.
Most.
Yes.
And this side, it was ruled by the Babylonians.
Yeah.
Sassanite are the offshoot of Babylonians?
You can call it Persian Empire as well. So the Neo-Persians, and I think my knowledge on that is not too detailed, but Sassanid Empire is what we call at the time is the whole Persian, but including Iraq as well. So that's why when they conquered the land of Sassanid Empire, the Kisra, the king of the Kisra means the king of Sassanid Empire, is actually in Ctesiphon, which is a Madain near Baghdad, right? So which I think I have that picture. It's just a very small picture. So there was, but before that it was a very small battle, the Battle of Qadasiyah. So if Khalid bin Walid has a Battle of Yarmouk before they knock on the door of the Roman Empire, the Eastern Empire, the door of going into that area is called Qadasiyah. So there's a general by the name of Rustum, very famous general. They were at the time it was a very big, because Rasulullah, Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas at the time was only about 10,000 army, 10,000 strong. But the general, the Rustum, I think the name of the general is Rustum. They come with almost 100,000. It was big, and not only that, they also have elephants. So it was that's why it is a huge blessing that with the small numbers, right? Sometimes we so afraid of numbers, and these companions of Rasulullah, they're very strong in iman, and even though they have only small numbers, but that was the Battle of Qadasiyah is probably the one that is very huge, that is opening, which is, if you compare, of course you probably cannot, if you compare with Khalid bin Walid, take the whole, not the whole Byzantine, it's just only part of the Biladusham, right? And it was later on during the Ottoman and so on, we get to the Constantinople, right? But if you compare in terms of land, Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, after conquering Qadasiyah and then Ctesiphon, this is actually the whole Persian, the whole Sassanid Empire at that time. And that's after there's a couple of battles. This is one of the fiercest battle, because it was like 4 days and 4 nights. So people fight in shifts. They continue during the night, and there was at that time they used elephants. There's probably 10 of them elephants, and probably in the modern time it's like tanks, right? So the first time they see these elephants, and Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas came up with the idea, when very far away they shoot the eyes of the elephants. The elephant went crazy, and then they even killed their own armies and so on. But eventually, after 4 days, there was a huge conquest, and one led to another, and that when they actually conquered the Taq of Kisra, the palace, the imperial palace of Kisra in Madain in 637. I just want to share with you a little bit about, I don't know whether you've been to Turkey, right? I don't know if you've been to Turkey and then you went to Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia was actually built 300s or something, just like the year of 300. It was actually huge structure, and if you went there, you cannot imagine how people actually built that. One of the magnificence of architectures. This Taq of Kisra is actually even so serious. It's even bigger and majestic. This is imperial palace, and not everyone can go there. And this is when they conquered that. Sa'd bin Waqqas together with Salman al-Farisi, because he actually originally from there, and they went to this when they conquered this imperial palace. The first thing they did, of course, they make azan and do prayer. But if you look at about this actually, Ctesiphon was actually the capital of Sasanian. Is 800 years old, so probably one of the biggest cities at the time, even bigger than the Constantinople. But again, because history-wise, the stories about the Turks, the Ottoman is more bigger. But if you look at in terms of the land, in terms of this
is the palace.
This is the imperial palace.
Hagia Sophia was a cathedral.
Yeah, it's cathedral. Even that is already magnificent, right? And you can imagine this, right? It is even magnificent. There was certain 100 meters hanging structure without any columns, supporting columns. And if you can imagine, Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas was the first person who embraced Islam. At that time, they were prosecuted. In front of them, they can see Bilal being prosecuted. They're almost like tortures and prosecuted and whatnot. They make starving and hungry, and just during his time. And at that time in Makkah, there was no some people who have been displaced, right? In 1400, after this time, right, they're still being amazed with the infrastructure, the architectures. There's a book written today. It is one of the architecture wonder, and people at this time alone already being fascinated and amazed by that. You can imagine Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas at that time, and over that time in Medina and Makkah, there is no 3 floors building, right? The highest one is Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. That's only 2 stories, right? But there's no 3 stories, and they came and they see a huge, massive structure, and if they reflected, right, there was Islam was persecuted at the time, and to get where they are right now, and they conquer one of the biggest empire, and of course with the permissions, whether Allah blessed them with this big conquer. So it is the wonder of architecture is probably even much bigger than the what do you call that, the cathedral, probably even bigger than that in terms of monument, in terms of structures and architectures, buildings and so on. Last but not least, probably this is the last part. The stories are doing Umar bin Khattab, because he already conquered that. Now, one of the interesting thing, right, once they conquer Tisafon, right, which is the Madain now, all the companions, when after they conquer it, Umar bin Khattab did not ask them to live in that city. So actually they live very far away, which is 20 kilometers away, and there was no town, right? And there was no town at that time. They just built their tents. And they make this piece of land. They call it Kufa. There was no one there actually, right? But they lived there in Kufa, right? As long as they pay their ransoms and so what was it called, the jizya, pay their jizya and so on. So they control them, but they don't come there to conquer and to enjoy the lavish life. No, they don't do that, right? The idea is they want to introduce Islam and to do da'wah and whatnot. It's not to conquer land because of the money. So after they conquer all of this massive palace and everything, they don't actually live there. They actually live in Kufa, which is 20 kilometers away. Because of the daily interactions of the people of Kufa, right? They see the Sahaba, they see the companion. That's where they start embracing Islam, right? Not because of the conquest. Of course, la ikraha fid din, right? There's no compulsion in Islam. So, and then because of that interaction, they become Kufa, and then you know that a bit like a stone distant way, there's a Karbala where when the Hussein Radhi'Allah Annhu become martyr, become Suhada. That was a bit far away from Kufa, but the Kufa is not actually a town at that time. And again, people of Kufa, people of Iraq at the time, they're probably not happy with Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas. They make stories, they make slanders, and they send people to Medina to Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu, says your governor there, they're not, and they accuse Sa'ad bin Waqqas that he didn't even know how to pray, right? And this is of course this is all slanders and whatnot, right? And Umar actually called Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, okay, these people, your subjects in Iraq, they're not respecting you, they're not do this, they call you this, they call you that, you have been living lavishly, you've been enjoying life, and you don't even know how to pray. Of course, what do you say about that? Seriously, you say do you think so? No, of course not, but what do you think about that? Anyway, because of that, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas then resigned from the governorship, and then he actually stayed in Medina until his death in 674, which interestingly When I read the stories about Saad bin Abi Waqqas, there's no mentions of him visiting Guangzhou. I don't know whether you know in Guangzhou there was a where's brother Jalil. He was asked me he should come. Anyway, because he's not there here, so probably let's not touch that one.
Yeah, there
There's,
is a controversy there as well from China. Some says he came,
Yeah.
some says no.
Yeah.
There's no historical evidence that
there's no historical evidence. Yeah, there are actually two because you talk about it. There are three versions of that. The first version that he went there during his quiet time because he actually stayed for 35 years under the radar. After he resigned from his governorship, right? He went to Medina, and he bought a ship or something, and then he become herder. What do you call that?
merchant.
Merchants and raising ships and so on. He didn't want to get involved in politics at all. He didn't want to get involved in especially the fights of Ali and there was the Battle of Jamal. No, he just would keep quiet and raise ships and stuff like that. So he just stay away from this. Very very non-political at all. He didn't want any positions. He didn't want anything. So he went there. Uh, that someone says that probably in 651, because according to that story in Guangzhou is around 651 AD, that he went out there and then stayed there for a while, then came back. That's one other version of story. Another, the one that if you look at some of the Chinese websites and stuff like that, I found some of the Chinese websites mentions about that he went there and came back again, and the people of Guangzhou overheard that he passed away. He's actually buried in what do you call the Jannah Baki, yeah, Baki al-Khattab, yeah. He was actually buried there. But the one of the websites that I found that he went back. It was a Chinese. Probably I do the Google Translate and whatnot, and then he said there was when they overheard that Saad bin Waqqas passed away, they made the replica of the grave. So it was not a real it was a, but there's some of the people say they were just quiet and went there to Guangzhou and spent all his life there and then passed away. There's a 3% of the story. I tend to believe that because there's no historical evidence, there might be some of the clan, some of the family of Saad bin Abi Waqqas went there because obviously some people came there and then built the masjid and introduced Islam and whatnot. Yeah, that's probably wallahu alam. So I tend to believe there was probably some of the clans, some of the family or something. But if you, there's one video clip from Imam Omar Sulaiman. He mentioned the story that Saad bin Abi Waqqas actually went there. But I tried to find the Hayatul Sahaba and there's no stories about that. But anyway, he has no involved at all in politics and government. And then he become doing the farmings and doing cattle. And oh yes, there's one, probably just last one inshallah. There's one story. When Umar called him up, summoned him and says what happened to this, and you know what happened is Umar sent someone to go to Kufa, right? Find anyone who can testify that what they accused of Saad was doing, live lavishly and whatever the crime that they asked the accused Saad of doing, find if they find any witness. So this guy, which is the messengers from Umar bin Khattab, went for every single masjid, and no one. Actually, one of the last masjid says someone raised his hand. Yes, I can testify that Saad bin Abi Waqqas doing that. Saad bin Abi Waqqas says, "What? Seriously, right? Yes, I'm testifying." And then, you know what he did after that? He did, and then he went up, make dua, make prayer, and then make dua. And Ya Allah, if he lied to me, if he lied, Ya Allah, make him blind, and then make him suffer, make him has a long life and suffer. And that is exactly what happened to this person. And he was blind and he was still alive, and he was just in the street of Kufa running around and stuff like that. And after so many years, someone asked, "What's the story to you?" and it says, "I was like this because of the dua of Saad bin Abi Waqqas." So yeah, this is one of the story. Yeah, he stay away from politics, and he's actually the last of Ashara Mubashara who passed away. So that is the life events of the companions of Rasulullah tonight. I just want to highlight a few things. Number one, he was actually military genius. People thought about military genius and conquerors and so on about Khalid bin Walid, but and again, we're not comparing companions, but if you look at the virtues of Fadilah of Saad bin Waqqas, he's one of the first person to embrace Islam. He's side by side with Rasulullah in every battles and whatnot, and he's one who's guaranteed paradise. Of course, he is a different class by himself, and that's why it's overshadowed that he's actually a military genius as well. I like to quote this productivity because when the people at the time fighting over the battle of Jama, the battle of Siffin, the companions want to get there's a battle that so many people get involved. We just stay aware of that and just probably raising ships and so on and whatnot. So just being productive rather than get involved in some things. I think I call myself a little bit non-political as well. So I try to not to get involved in politics and so on. And Abdullah bin Abbas, and then as well as Saad bin Waqqas is my idols in terms of someone I look up to in terms of being non-political. And one of the things that not many people know, this is the last bit, which is he has Rasulullah made a dua that his dua is accepted by Allah. So even the companions they don't want to mess with him because when he raises his hand, Allah will grant it right away. So that is Alhamdulillah what I have to share with you. I tried to compile it last night, and this is what I can get that I can share with you. But the one of the greatest Sahaba, one of the giant Sahaba of Rasulullah SAW, the one that Rasulullah gave him a good news of being in Jannah together with the other 7 companions. The first group of people who embraced Islam, the first group of people who went through the suffering, went through the difficulties and persecutions and whatnot. They finally survived, they finally conquer, and Allah blessed them with the conquer of a big piece of land in order to Islam spread across the world. Jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, if there are any simple questions and easy questions, I can take. We can take questions, or we already running out of time. Yes, if any quick questions, simple questions, otherwise we can close. Inshallah, brother. No. All right. So jazakumullah khair. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.